Former Chief of Staff to Vice President Mike Pence, he was also the liaison to Congress, congressional director in the original Trump administration. Marc Short, welcome back. It's great to see you.
Joe, thanks for having me.
Are we closer to this being resolved, or?
I think you're closer just because of a timeline.
So no, not really.
Well, not so much because of the policies. Look, I think this has always been the out. You and I have talked about this, is that eventually I think Republicans will cave on the Obamacare subsidies.
Yeah.
And that was always the way that this is going to resolve itself because of the timeline of those. But I think that Speaker Johnson is right. I think this has always been on the table as far as a vote. It's interesting that Democrats didn't jump on that. And I think, Joe, the reason is because I think they're feeling more and more confident in their own position here, which is a surprise because I think traditionally when Republicans have forced shutdowns, eventually, the American people look at it and say, well, who forced this? And they don't get rewarded for it. I think in this case, Democrats forced the shutdown, but I think they're feeling that they're going to win on the Obamacare subsidies issue. So a vote, being given a vote now is no longer sufficient for them. They want a desired outcome.
Deal, sure. When you were legislative director in the first Trump term, you would have been making phone calls this week saying, hey, you know what? We got the troops paid. We've got federal law enforcement. We got money for WIC. These are really interesting moves that the administration has been making to say, well, in the words of Russ Vought, we're hunkering down for a long one.
I think they are, because I also think that the administration actually is sort of, engaged at a level above Congress. The president is in Israel striking historic deals. The president's looking for the next negotiation in Ukraine. He's looking to his trade deal with Xi coming up in November. And so I think that they're at a whole different level, and they sort of like Congress is beneath them, so why get mired into that right now? So I think there isn't as much interest in the White House to engage, which I think also slows down a negotiation to resolve the shutdown.
It does, right? I mean, you've got Mike Johnson saying this could be the longest ever. Is that where your head is?
I'm not sure it's the longest ever, because I still think that the next sort of backstop on this, Joe, is November 1, when the announcements of the new insurance premiums go out.
Right.
And so I think that's going to be a pressure point.
Do Republican governors start crying at that point?
Yes, I think probably so. I mean, I think what's to go back when we failed in our effort to repeal Obamacare, one of the most untold stories of that is it was really Republican governors, because so many of the Obamacare subsidies, they were getting Medicaid funding. They did not want that to stop.
Wow.
And they were calling legislators asking them not to vote to repeal Obamacare.
So, wait, that's a really important story to recall. This could be happening again
Absolutely.
right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of pressure from Republican governors. I think there's enough Republican members who represent districts. Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, for instance, who's been out there saying that we need to extend the subsidies. I personally think it's terrible policy. I think that the Democrats were really shrewd in basically winning over insurance companies by promising subsidies that, it started at 400% of the poverty level, Joe, and now we're above that to be providing subsidies. But I think politically there's enough Republicans willing to go along with it that's going to still be the outcome of this.
With conditions, right? Republicans obviously have something on paper that's going to say an income cap of what, $200,000, a point of expiration. I mean, the idea was that at some point these would not be made permanent, although I know a lot of Democrats want it to be.
There'll be a point of expiration, but that's what we have right now.
That's when the next shutdown happens.
That's what we have right now. Yes. There's a point of expiration during the COVID, and since this was legislated to extend them for 2 years. And so I think that, the hardest thing to do is to end the government program, Joe. And so I think that even though you might have a temporary end date, it'll be hard to see that there'll be the political muscle to end it at that point, too.
Democrats say Donald Trump made the 2017 tax cuts permanent. Why can't we make this permanent?
Well, again, I think that the Democrats created a government-run healthcare system that's been a total disaster that continues to create more and more and more government funding. I don't think people are happy with it, but they've created the system where it's too expensive if we don't extend the subsidies. Yeah. And that's just the ongoing problem that we're in now.
John Thune's doing more than promising Obamacare votes, and we've got just about a minute left here. He's going to have a vote on the NDAA potentially by the end of the day. What do you make of that strategy to see if we can get Democrats to come to the floor to vote for something?
I think it's really smart, because either you're saying, hey, we want to continue with government funding or continue the business of the Senate, or we're in a shutdown.
Right.
And so I think it's smart for them to keep putting forward votes of that nature, whether or not it's funding DOD or now NDAA. I think those are smart moves.
Does that shake a couple Democrats loose? Maybe vote for a CR?
I think it could shake them one or two loose on these individual bills.
Got it.
I think that the CR is not going to be solved until you get around November 1st, and you have, again, a push on the subsidies.
We're going to be eating turkeys still talking about this, right? I don't know. Don't answer that. Marc Short with us in the flesh. Great to see you, as always, Republican strategist Marc Short on Balance of Power.